Talk Radio 333 WTAE. Doug.
Now, for those who we're coming up on the news with Alan and, of course, the fabulous Paul Harvey, whatever it is he does on Saturday. If you would like to talk to me off the air, and there are many people who have questions that are either not suitable for the air because they're too dirty. Most people want to know, hey, tell me that Jack Nicholson story that you can't tell on air. Or who are those two girls, you know, that were singers who performed their way to the top stratosphere. That's the kind of stuff I get. But anyway, if you want to talk off the air because you're too nervous, too tense, too shy, it may not be suitable for airplay. I hang out in here trying desperately to look famous between 12 and 12:20. Queue up early, as Phil would say. 333-WTAE is the telephone number, 333-WTAE. And if you don't get through, hang on. I'll get to you as soon as I possibly can. I won't start taking these until we go into the cast at noon. And I'll hang out in here as long as calls come in. So, again, it's for off-the-air stuff, questions, whatever. Three kind of stuff maybe we can't talk about on the radio, or you're just too nervous to be on the radio. 333-WTAE, AT&T Wireless, Bell Atlantic, WTAE, or 9823. Why do I avail myself of this service? That's not the right way of saying it. Why do I perform this service?
Because basically you're just a nice guy.
A nice guy. And don't you forget it. A nice person.
You're a nice man.
Go back to Jenny Jones, though. She says she has no input whatsoever on the show. And I believe that. Because that's generally the way it is. They hire a front person who makes all the money. And they essentially tell that person, hey, this will fly, this will fly, this will fly. Your gift is in making it happen once we put it on television. Do you really think that Ricky Lake sits down with the producers on a weekly brainstorming session? What are we going to do this week, Harry? Doesn't work that way. I would be willing to bet Oprah, because Oprah's Oprah and she's very sharp, Geraldo, people like that. But that Jenny Jones came across as an imbecile should not surprise a lot of people. I believe she was telling the truth. The business about ratings was, and she said, I've never heard of ambush. I had never heard of ambush television. Ambush television was a staple hold of talk shows.
Morton Downey did ambush television 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, not really, but and Morton Downey didn't do ambush either. He never did ambush. Ambush is when they get a person and they spring a surprise on him. An embarrassing surprise.
Okay.
In this guy's particular case, an embarrassment that a gay man had a crush on him. But anyway, those shows, well, because Oprah, I can't stand her either. She's on yesterday and reviewing the O.J. case and whatever happened to this guy, whatever happened to that guy. Court TV, yeah. And you're a regular viewer, I can tell. And she says, Cato Kalin is doing this and doing that, and I'm happy to say he was never on this show. And the audience, of course, gives her a standing ovation. Every time she burps, they give her a standing ovation. I'm saying, no, you didn't have that sleazeball on, but you've had every other sleazeball on your program. Why are you bragging about the fact that you didn't have that particular sleazeball? I mean, who the hell are you? The woman makes $100 million a year. She's laughing all the way to the bank. In the meantime, the country's going, isn't it wonderful? We're getting depth and insight from from Oprah, daytime's version of Larry King. Anyway, we got to go. You want to talk off the air? Get him in here. There's only one call on the line. I may just quit, period. I may not come back at 12:20. I may just say the hell with it and go home. If this is it, this is all I have. It's the only people that love me. 333-WTAE for off-the-air stuff. 333, I'll yell it out. 333-WTAE. Call now, all right? Give me some music. Where's the music? I need music to get into the cast. Doug Hoerth is my name. Hope you know who you are. Talk Radio 1250 WTAE, 333-WTAE. Stay close.
WTAE's Countdown to Kickoff. The Steelers in St. Louis, Sunday at noon on Talk Radio 1250 WTAE. Speak for yourself.
Games in the snow. Can't see. Too funny. I mean, it's almost like fog. That's how bad it is out there. Giants went down. Desperation City. 50-something yards. Bert Retzschar was 56. It was like 49, 50 yards, whatever the hell it was. Don Chandler. Yeah. All right? And I'm saying to myself, there's no way this guy's going to make this. There's no way. And Marty Glickman with that great New York accent, you know. Here's the snap. The ball, the kick is down. The kick is up. The kick is good. In that momentary pause, good. You know, and then the place went crazy. Oh, my God, they did it again. They did it again.
Wasn't there a big ruckus about that? Because you couldn't even see.
I don't recall.
I remember that.
I was so
because
young. I was such a little kid. I just know I was so PO'd that it happened.
Madden's partner on the TV, what's his name?
You know, I could be wrong. It might not have been Chandler.
I think it was Summerall.
You're right. It was Summerall.
Okay.
It was Summerall.
Because they, on one of these old shows, you know, like these classic shows, you know, they said, was it good? Did you know where it went through? And he goes, oh, it's good. And then he'd laugh. You know,
yeah, it was Summerall. I apologize. Don Chandler was, I think he later became the place kicker.
For the Packers.
But he was the
for the
punter.
Packers.
But he was the punter for the Giants. Before he went to Green Bay,
he
was the punter.
Okay.
And he was the place kicker for the... Did he replace Horning as the place kicker? Or did Horning replace him?
No, Horning was the...
Horning was the place kicker.
Place kicker, yeah, he was.
The field goal
and Chandler came, I think... Chandler was on that team. I mean, I don't know whether he was the punter, but he also kicked field goals.
Hey, no, he kicked field goals.
Yeah, I kicked.
I'm wondering if maybe later in his career, Horning did.
But do you remember when the Steelers beat them? And this was in the middle '50s. It was 63-7. They beat the Giants, and I mean they clobbered them one year.
Well, do you remember the game that the only game that I think the Steelers beat when Jimmy Brown played? It was here when it was Forbes Field, and it was 9-7.
Yes,
was the final,
right.
And they tackled. I believe they tackled him in the.
They tackled him on about the half-yard line.
Yeah, one of the greatest games.
Well, the big thing when Cleveland played the Giants, it was Jimmy Brown versus Sam Huff. Now, Jimmy Brown goes 215, 228. He was listed as 228, and I think Huff is like about 215, 225 out of West Virginia. And they always made it into the Sam Huff, Jimmy Brown confrontation, which it invariably was. And Huff talked about how you had to tackle this guy. So the first thing you do is you don't tackle him around the legs. You tackle around the legs, he just keeps going. That's it. Jimmy Brown and Sam Huff had his number. Sam Huff, every game I remember, Jimmy Brown scored less than 100 yards rushing. I mean, that was it. Brown would just shut him down, lock, stock, and barrel. I'm sure he had a lot of help. But, you know, you bring up something else that hit me. Tom Landry, the specialty era. You know, many years ago, the guy who did your kickoffs and the guy who did your punting was oftentimes your place kicker as well.
Sure.
And most of the place kickers, like Yale Larry of the Detroit Lions, is in the Hall of Fame as a defensive back, was a punter. I believe Norm Van Brocklin was a punter. I know he was at one time in his career. Sammy Baugh, I think, was a drop kick guy.
Landa's a quarterback.
We mentioned Paul Horning is another guy. Pat Summerall was a defensive end or something, and a place kicker who ultimately became just a place kicker. My point, Gordy Salta was an end for the 49ers, was also a place kicker. My point, many times the quarterbacks, Tom Landry was a punter. Tom Landry was a defensive back. He was also a punter for the New York Giants. I want to say that Bobby Lane, I could be wrong on this, not in Pittsburgh.
No.
But I think with the Detroit Lions, I am of the opinion Bobby Lane did some field goal kicking, or Doak Walker did field goal kicking for the Lions, and he was a defensive back.
Right. Yeah.
He was the kicker.
Lane may have kicked. He may have kicked.
Somewhere along the line, I think
you may have looked at Encyclopedia. It's probably in there. He may have kicked.
I'm going to have to when I get home. Now that I brought it up.
This I may be wrong about, but Horning, I believe, still holds a record for points in the season. I think 176, I believe, because you know he was a halfback and also he kicked field goals. So I mean, I still think he holds the record.
But they got away from that. I mean, it's just like doctors getting into specialty medicine.
Now they're getting back to the point now where they would like to have a guy that just did one.
Yeah, the Chandler thing puzzles me too.
Well, with the salaries being with
because Max McGee was a wide receiver and he was the punter for Green Bay, and then when Horning was the place kicker.
Chandler may have come along later.
I think he came later, right at the end of Lombardi's era, but it seems to me that Chandler was with one of them Super Bowl teams.
I think he was. I think he was.
I'm of the opinion.
I think he was.
Okay, Chandler was with the Super Bowl teams. We're talking McGee and Horning were with the National Football League champions because they won 5 championships altogether, but they won 2 Super Bowls. 2 Super Bowls. This was before the Super Bowl when they were. That's what I'm thinking of.
That must have been. And again, we get back to today with the salaries being what they are. If you could have a guy who was your starting, quarterback who also did the kicking, I mean, that'd be a throw.
Well, that's one of the reasons why the Steelers ditched Ron Stark.
Because she says she suffered emotional distress when Kuhn fired shots from a high-powered rifle over the heads of some people attending an outdoor party near Kuhn's